Things that we carry. Assessing everyday carry gear. Disclaimer. This is not intended as legal or medical advice. Consult your local laws and seek legal advice from legal professionals. Alright, I'm Nino from S6 Precision, here again for unsolicited advice. Feel free to question anything you hear. If you're thinking critically, we're off to a good start. This week, I'll talk about my approach to the gear that we carry every day. Everyday carry items, or EDC for short, is a popular topic nowadays, and we should look at it with more than just a surface glance. This is the gear that we carry day in, day out, from keys to credit cards to pocket knives and more. I use some basic criteria to analyze the gear that I do carry or may carry. I'll be covering the following topics today. 1. Purpose. 2. Build quality. 3. Price. 4. Legality/social acceptability. 5. The perfect balance. So 1. Purpose. Before you carry any gear, medical, tactical, or mundane, consider its purpose and your reason for carrying it. I like collecting things, and the thrill of the hunt is entertaining. But if you have gear that you need to rely on a regular basis, its purpose comes first. Gear does not make the man. It is the person, their skills, and their intentions that utilize any gear. There are no silver bullets when it comes to EDC. Even the most expensive weapons or tools can be useless if your skills are not up to par, or if your luck is just plain bad. The sturdiest gear can fail if its user is not up to snuff, so work on your skill sets, and that will help you more efficiently use anything that you carry on you. What is your purpose for walking around with specific gear? Do you need to walk around with key cards to enter restricted spaces? Do you have medical issues like allergies that you need to manage with EpiPens? Do you need gear to manage and monitor your insulin levels if you're a diabetic? If you cook on a regular basis, do you carry food prep items or spices? Everyday carry gear should be informed by your lifestyle and your skills. Carrying excessive or inappropriate gear can be awkward, like wearing a tuxedo to a pool party. But in some circumstances, odd gear selections can fit. Most people would not carry around a yo-yo on a regular basis, but if you were part of some sort of competitive yo-yo scene, it would make sense to always have one on your person. Another thing to consider is to have some gear that can serve multiple purposes. Why carry a super specialized tool like a fancy tactical blade if you can't do simple things like food prep or open your mail with it? A flashlight is a good example. If you're out at night, it's helpful to find items that you drop in the dark, like keys, or you can use a flashlight to illuminate unsteady footpaths. You can carry a small flashlight almost everywhere, and you can use them for defensive purposes as well, such as momentarily blinding an assailant, and some flashlights come with tooth bezels on their ends, so you can use them at the flashlight as an impact device. But when it comes to EDC, be aware of overdoing it. If you're carrying John Rambo amounts of gear to go to your local frozen yogurt spot, but you live in a sleepy town, you may be in fact playing tactical dress-up ninja instead. It's cool if you're self-aware, and you're a collector or a hoarder, but many people are not when it comes to EDC. If you stick out like a sore thumb in the eye of your community, it can be kind of lame. So, sorry, not sorry. 2. Quality. For gear, build quality determines how well an item can help you solve a problem. If it can solve that problem repeatedly, or if it can be used, stored, or carried without unreasonable damage under a variety of conditions. Quality even applies to things that may be disposable or single-use like Band-Aids. If, for example, a Band-Aid's packaging is straight-up crap, it may not stay sealed or sterile when being transported in a pocket or a bag. If the adhesive on a Band-Aid is poor, it may not stay on very well to cover up a wound. You can modify your gear to increase both durability and usability, using the same example of the Band-Aids. You can use a better container for storage than just your pocket. Having med supplies in something like a metal container, like an old Altoids tin, will increase the longevity of some single-use supplies. For items that may be heavy usage, test them out. If it's a tool that you may need to rely on in an emergency situation, test it under controlled conditions. For example, if you may need to repair or disassemble items on a regular basis, test out if your multi-tool is up to snuff. Personally, I snapped a flathead screwdriver bit on a multi-tool when disassembling furniture. That immediately told me that the multi-tool that I like to carry is okay for minor repairs, but for anything heavy duty, I'll need to have higher quality, more durable tools. If you'll need to test your gear to failure, that can quickly become expensive, and cost becomes very much a consideration. So that leads to our next section. 3. Price. Many of us are limited by budget. It's just a statement of fact. I find it helpful to prioritize gear by need first, then performance, then price. But depending on your needs and your lifestyle, these priorities may change. When it comes to EDC gear and expense, honestly, the sky's the limit. You can find artisanally made bottle openers made out of titanium alloys for hundreds of dollars, or you can find companies giving away aluminum bottle openers for free. One thing to consider is that price does not necessarily equal performance for your gear. You can buy a custom handmade knife for thousands of dollars, but it may be outperformed in the kitchen by something like a paring knife you can find at Target. Also, with costs, if you spend too much money, you may be hesitant to use that piece of gear, or even ruin it if you find it too rare or too precious. If it's everyday carry gear that you'd be hesitant to use when you need to, you have to ask yourself, why do you have that gear in the first place? If you simply like the look of it, or you like to fidget with it, you have to be honest with yourself. Just know that whatever piece of gear you have, it does take up limited real estate on your person, so you have to assess the pros and cons of carrying it. I find that there's a sweet spot financially where you can find something that is both sturdy and usable, but you won't be afraid to use it on a regular basis. It's also possible to source decent used gear for a reasonable price. You just have to hunt for it. Maybe you find a quality wallet or a backpack that you can source from a thrift shop or eBay, or you may be able to find things like tools from garage sales. It's also not a bad idea to ask your community. You can ask friends or family about the gear you're interested in, especially if they have similar hobbies or interests. They may be able to provide some suggestions, reviews, recommendations, or even old gear they've outgrown. I know I've been in that position where I've given away gear I no longer need, and I would rather give decent gear to a friend who may need it in the future. If you're able, it may not be a bad idea to pay it forward. Also, if you're strapped for cash, start off by planning a budget from the very start, and prioritize your budget allocation based on your daily needs. If you have to do things like repairs on a regular basis as part of your job or a hobby, you may spend more of your budget on a higher end, something like a higher end multi-tool, because you may need something like a full set of pliers rather than having a cheaper option that is lacking features that you may need. 4. Social acceptability / legality. Any gear you carry should deal with issues or solve problems you experience. If the gear that you have has the potential to cause you more problems than it solves, you really have to ask yourself if it's worth the cost. If your gear garners unnecessary attention or scrutiny, it could very well be a liability. Even if your gear is legal to carry, if it gets used in an emergency defense situation, everything can be scrutinized, even the name of your gear or your tools. A pocket knife called the Stabmaster 5000 will most likely be scrutinized more than the classic Buck Knives 110 model or something as innocuous as a Swiss Army knife. It is your responsibility to navigate the ins and outs of your locale. So research your laws for what you should and what you can carry. Know the culture of the community in which you reside. Your health and your freedom may depend on it. For example, having a hammer while doing repairs or while woodworking makes sense. But if you pull a hammer out after a fender bender, that could be seen as sinister intent. So the context matters of what you do and what you carry. 5. The perfect balance. The best gear to carry every day hits all 4 of the previous sections. 1. Your gear serves a useful purpose or multiple useful purposes. 2. The gear that you have is of good or reliable quality and it can get the job or the job's done. 3. The cost of obtaining the gear doesn't break the bank. And 4. Your gear solves more problems for you than it causes. Remember, you're a person that carries your gear, and you are not a person that is carried by your gear. If you have the skills and the knowledge, you can make do, even when your loadout is not ideal. You don't have to have everything sorted out right now, and even if you find gear you like, feel free to critically look at yourself and your approaches towards what you carry. This gradual process of refinement is helpful in not only selecting your EDC gear, but also with other areas of life. So this is Nino from S6 Precision. Thanks for listening. I hope you and yours stay healthy, and I hope you question everything.